Before we jump into our discussion, I left off with saying that I wanted to talk a little bit about each one of the people that are sitting here on the panel today because there's a reason why I asked who I asked, and so I am going to start down here with Miss Lori Repko. Yes, we can give it up for her. She's amazing. So let me just say that I had the privilege of meeting this woman, this powerful woman, when she was my son's speech and debate coach. And my son was not even thinking about trying out for the speech and debate team. And he decided that this was something that he was going to do because I think the story goes that like he came in and read something or said something and you were so moved by it. And then you were like, you're trying out. Like you're going to do it. So it was predetermined for him that he was going to try out. And so me as like the speech and literature geek that I am, I was like, well, I'm going to volunteer and be a judge. And so we went and traveled very early on Saturday mornings, and I was a judge for the kids. And she and I had a lot of downtime to talk. And we started talking about this book, Divorcing Religion, Finding God, that I was working on. And I got a chance, before she even knew that I was writing the book, and before I even told her that, I was hearing her story. And I said, I got to interview you. And so her story is in the book, and I would not be doing this panel without including Miss Lori Repko. The next person, I mean, this woman is Nicole Bromley. I mean, like, listen, Google her and find out just how badass or I mean, she is just amazing. And I love her dearly because she is not only just an amazing colleague, you know, our work is adjacent of each other, but we still have the goal and the desire to just help people. And I slid into her DMs. Yep, sure did. How many years ago was it, Nicole?
Well, 2 or 3 years before I responded.
I mean, I wasn't seeing you told on yourself. I wasn't gonna do that. She left me on red for about 2 or 3 years. She left me on red for 2 or 3 years. That's our friendship story. And then all of a sudden I look at my DMs and she pops up with her response and I'm like, oh my God, Nicole Buckley. And so I was so excited that you responded. We met up. Was it at North Star?
Always.
Which is, by the way, is still our place. And we were instant best friends, just like that. And so now we call ourselves sister friends. I love this woman dearly. And she was not interviewed for the book, but she wrote a powerful endorsement. And so I'm happy to be blessed to just call you friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
How many ways? How can I count the ways that I love Sharon Maxwell? She is one of the most fearless women that I have ever encountered in my life. Your bravery, your story, and you Google her too, okay? Because she's badassery up here too, by the way. But I have known you for what, is it 3 years now? 4 years? 3-ish? Yeah. And so we met through the National Alliance for Eating Disorders, which my 2 besties are here. I'll get to them later. But we met through doing events with them, and we both connected over our journeys with just finding peace with our bodies again and our healthy relationship with food, especially after surviving high control religion. And so that was an instant connector for us. And so, of course, I asked her to be interviewed for the book, like, duh. And not only did she agree to do that, but she agreed to fly all the way here from San Diego, California. Love, like so much love. And so thank you for being here. And I just appreciate like just sharing space with you. We got Danny Ortiz over here. I call him Danny Ortega. That's my name for him. This man, I mean, you're like a brother, like for real. Like how long we know each other? Like 18 years? 18, yeah. And so he is truly a brother to me. He and his wife Deb have been there with me and my husband through so many phases and seasons of our life. They are definitely lifetimers, and he has seen me transform. And he has seen me go from couldn't stand God, couldn't stand church to where I am now. And so I would not have done this without you. So thank you so much for holding space for me and being there to pick up the phone when I call you and cry and all the things and just being a friend and a brother to me. And you know, I'm waiting for the last person, right? I mean, I think I kind of know this brother over here looking all fine in his blue outfit. Watch yourself. He said, keep that energy. Y'all be sweet tonight. No, I'm just joking. I'm just playing. Anyways, this is none other than Mr. Michael Redd himself in the flesh. He is, to many people, this powerhouse of an athlete, the Mr. Ohio State University Buckeye, Hall of Famer, all-star team, just a fabulous career. But to me, he is my biggest supporter, my biggest advocate, and never ceases to lend his chest to me when I need to lay on it and cry. So thank you, because he has seen it firsthand. He has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I am grateful that he's here to share space and to just be present with me and with all of you. Love you, really. All right. Here we go. We're getting started. So this book, Divorcing Religion, Finding God. Wow. So 2-year process. And what we're going to hear today, what we're going to discuss is not necessarily the book, but we want to spark curiosity tonight. And we want to talk about different topics that are important to our panelists. And then, of course, if the book comes up, the book comes up. But I think I'm just going to let the conversation flow and be as natural as possible. So, Michael, I'm going to start with you. Okay. You witnessed much of my journey firsthand. What changes did you see in me as I moved from my inherited beliefs to a more authentic relationship with God?
What changes? Well, before I even answer the question, let me admonish you again. You are my rock, our family rock, and you're an inspiration to all of us in this room. And I was able to see this and continue to see it up close every day. It's an honor to be in your life, in your orbit. And I tell you, watching you grow, mature, and evolve has been the joy of my life because it's inspired me to grow. And I think the real purpose of us being together is for us to continue to be mirrors and grow. And you have challenged me in so many ways. You know this for 23 years. You've expanded my life, expanded my horizons beyond what I could ever see, which is what's supposed to happen. And to see your evolution, the word that comes to mind for me is inspiration. Yes, tears, yes, pain, yes. It's like Andy Dufresne, for those who have watched that movie that we all love. I got the name. Shawshank Redemption. And there's a scene where Andy Dufresne crawls through the tunnel of shit and crawls out the other side of freedom. And we see him in Mexico, obviously living his best life, but he had to go through the tunnel of crap to get to where he had to get to. And you are the epitome of that as far as courage, strength, the ability to understand the consequences of your growth. Not everybody can handle your upgrades in life. And Kia is a disruptor to the status quo and to those who continue to be comfortable in their thinking, in their mentality, in their paradigms. I've had a front row seat every day of seeing this and being with you in the journey. And so very proud of you and your ability to be able to go outside of how you and I grew up. That's not easy. That's a whole neural pathway shift of way of thinking that you've undertaken, and it's contagious.
Yes.
It really is contagious. You know, your ability to be able to question how we grew up, things that we learned, things that were just indoctrinated in our thinking, to step outside of that took a lot of courage and strength. And there was certain things that you were saying and doing that was like, maybe I need to do an introspection of myself. And it started me on the journey of curiosity. And I think the future will frown on certainty and reward curiosity. And you embody that. And I'm so very proud of you. It's too long to answer, but I wanted to say that about you.
Thank you.
You're the husband, you get a pass. You can answer as long as you want. That's how this works up here on the panel. We have no rules.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead to Danny. Kia mentioned that you guys have been friends forever. You were always a shoulder to cry on if she needed something. So with that being said, you talk a lot about divine potential. Now, in your experience, what happens when people stop seeking permission from religious systems and they just begin trusting the divine wisdom that they have within themselves?
What a great question. My goodness. That's it. It's crazy. I do want to say
You're
this.
welcome.
What a great question.
I don't think I wrote that.
My goodness. Hold on a second. Let me back up and say I did on Mike when Akia, I call her Chia. Sorry, that's my name for her. I know she hates it.
Childhood.
A Chia red. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you was able to have the guts to put everything that you did in that book. I think it's a culmination of all your other books. And it's one of the greatest writings I've ever seen you do because you're so authentic. And when the world frowns on authenticity, I think that's the answer. The world's needing authentic people to live their journey, to embrace their journey, to see themselves outside of themselves and give permission to cry over themselves, to mourn themselves, as we have done sometimes. Where she has called me and say, I gotta mourn this right here, and we just cried and said, let's mourn it. And so everyone is made with a divine potential in them. What religion loves is certainty, and what has happened to a lot of us with religion, and happened to you, Kier, is that we were projected and forced on a certain religion and a way of thinking that has taken us years to break out of. And it became almost inwoven with our DNA. And what happens is God takes us on this journey, and we have to be curious enough to let everything go, but curious enough at the same time to pick some of it up. Because I think what we do when we go through our process is we go through extremes. You know, the one thing that we love, then we hate. And the one thing that we hate, we love. But one thing we start learning is that everyone has what psychology calls shadow self. In order for me to know the greater me, I have to know the evil part of me. And that's a scary thing to do because we don't want to introduce ourselves to that. We don't want to introduce to the part that gets angry, that gets upset, that gets hurt, that's bitter. Because leaving religion or diversing religion, a lot of times is getting angry at the fact that someone imposed something on you. And you felt like you didn't have the right to face it. And now you have to do it because your own life is squeezing in on you. And your own life is choking you and you can't even breathe. And so what I believe, as you walk through this journey, the Holy Spirit, what I call the Holy Spirit, you can call divine, whatever you call divine, begins to start awakening something inside of you and tell you that you are, you can, and you will be. And you're already loved. And once you know that you love, once you understand that you are a daughter and a son, everything else breaks off. Once you understand that I don't have to search for identity, because that's what religion tries to do. That's what the divine potential is, something that's pouring out of you, saying, you do not have to be what other folks have told you to be, and you don't have to have permission to believe in a God that's already inside of you. You already are. And that's what I believe divine potential is allowing people to realize you already are, and you don't need somebody else's permission to be. You can just be.
I just want to say like that, thank you, Danny, so much too for sharing that. That's a really powerful answer. And actually, as he was talking, right before he said the shadow self, I actually was thinking that same thing. Because for me, in writing the book, The Divorcing Religion, I had to face the ego. I had to face the shadow. I had to face the really, there's a book that with internal family systems, and it's called No Bad Parts. And I really had to dive into the fact that like, there are no bad parts. There are no parts of me that are bad. They just are maybe some shadows that I need to pay closer attention to.
Come on.
And, and dive a little bit deeper into that. And from that, for me, like I was able to like find God, find the divine within myself. And I always tell people, like, if you want to get to know God, get to know yourself. If you want to get to know God, if you want to understand, like, get to understand yourself, go inward. And that was what my journey was. It was going inward. And so, naturally, Nicole, like talking about the process of going inward, right? Like a lot of your work is around, yes, sexual abuse survivors, those that have survived sexual abuses, assaults, that type of trauma, but trauma in general, right? One of the things that can be very scary for people that are trying to heal from traumas is going inward and facing that. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I think both healing from a trauma, like I've experienced sexual abuse and also religious abuse, they're both personal, they're very personal. Both of them involve a breach of trust, for those of us, for abuse survivors, it's typically, a caretaker or a partner. And then with religious trauma, we're talking about an authority figure, someone in the community that's a leader, or even just the entire belief system is an authority figure. So there's a lot of grief of losses that come with that. And then, so you're going inward to that center of you where, someone was manipulating, someone was coercing and controlling, and you almost don't trust yourself anymore because you've always been told what to do, how to be, what to wear, how to speak, what to believe. And so there comes a point where going inward means really looking at anger.
Yeah.
That's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
Confusion, and not only grieving all of that, but learning how to almost trust yourself again. Who am I? What do I like? What can I trust in myself? How can I set boundaries?
Yeah.
Understanding that, safety and belonging are accessible, but you have to learn that you are your own self now, and you can make those choices. And the narratives that I think that we've been taught in growing up of like, well, it was my fault, or I asked for that, or I behaved in this way, so I deserve this consequence. It's rewriting these narratives to where you're now living out of their empowered self and living out of the decisions that I want to make. For me, I might want to say no to this, or I might want to act in this way, and to get to know yourself again. And I think that's what going inward means, is relearning who am I, because I am actually just worthy enough to just be me.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you so much. And I resonate with that deeply. That was a huge part of the journey for me, for sure. Lori, you talk in the book about trust, learning to trust yourself again. Talk a little bit about what that means for you in your journey.
So my dad was deeply involved with the church. We grew up Catholic, and it's actually how I met my husband, Ed, who's sitting here with us today. And we were talking just this morning about how when you're raised in those structures, there is no self-trust. There's a system that you fall back on. There's a hierarchy of people that you have access to where anytime you have to make a decision, a value decision particularly, it's always, well, what is the path that has been created for me? And I think that was hard. And once I got to be about 13, I started pushing back on our priest. It was coming towards our confirmation for our faith. And I remember asking the priest, tell me more about evolution. Tell me more about like where the earth comes from and how that works. And he's like, well, God can invent a rock that's 6,000 years old if he wanted to. And I was like, wow, I'm not completely answering the question. But I was in front of the class of like 35 other kids and I thought, oh, now's not the time. And so I got home, and by the time I got home, my dad had already gotten a phone call from the priest who, chastised this whole process. And I was like, well, damn it. So we're taught to be curious, we're taught to have questions, and then when we do, we kind of get shot down for it. So losing that voice was hard, but regaining it was harder. And I think I learned to trust myself through reading, through finding community, through vibing with other people. When you and I met at that one turn and we started talking religion, I was like, ooh, she's my person. This is magical. And everybody I talked to tonight says, I vibe with Akia. And that's so true. And if you don't, you walk away. But yeah, when it's there, we don't need to go to dinner every day. We don't need to talk about our kids every day. But when we connect, it's like, it's a holy place. And so that's where that trust comes from for me. My husband and I have started saying it's important to, everything you believe, everything you need to know is between your fingertips and your elbows. And so on my arm, I've got my happy humanist, I've got my motherhood, and a peace sign, because that's all I need. And when I doubt myself, I go back to my human community, who are the people I know that keep me grounded, my son, my kids that I teach at high school for the past 32 years, and finding that peace. And so it's just it's a practice.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Sharon, you have talked to me ad nauseum about the IFB. Let's just put it out there, right? Like, we've talked about, we've had these conversations about your journey. Trust, self-trust, doubt, questioning. What did that look like for you? Yeah, what did it look like for you, I should say?
Yeah, that's such a huge question, and so many people have touched on it. We've heard that theme throughout what each panelist has said and what you've also shared, Akia. And Akia named it. I was raised in the IFB, Independent Fundamental Baptist cult, and they're right outside of Chicago. And questions were not something that you asked. There was a phrase that was taught, and it was, where man puts a question mark, God puts a period. And like, you might be like, amen, all right, okay, right? You're just like, hear that little cliche quote. However, what that meant was, there were men who were in power, who spoke as the voice of God. And so what it actually was that those men in power were the people who were putting periods places and deciding what was and was not right for the individuals in that space. And I happen to grow up in the inner circle of it. My parents are still very high up in this high demand religion, and you don't ask questions. There's a short story in the book about my family went to visit my maternal side of the family, and only my immediate family is in the cult. And so we went to visit, though. My maternal grandfather, was a pastor for 60 years in a country church in Maine. And so they all are religious and believe in God and Jesus and all of these things that I had grown up with the same language, but a lot more extreme. And I grew up only wearing skirts and dresses, which is ironic. I'm wearing a skirt right now. But I'm breaking the rules because my shoulders are showing, y'all. Okay, okay. And I just have
Cute
nylons
fun.
on.
It's
Yeah,
cute
girl.
fun. It's
Yeah, girl.
fine.
Thank you. And also, this is see-through and there's no slip.
Go ahead.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Should I
Go
look
ahead.
for?
Go ahead.
Be free, be you, girl. And if you men are tempted, I'm gay. And secondly, your temptation is your own responsibility.
Go.
So, yes. Yeah, no, so to question was not just to, it wasn't just to ask, in Maine, sorry, I skipped the story, it's really cute. I'm a 4-year-old, and once I got out of the cult, my aunt told me this story, and she said it gave her hope for me. And it was, we're sitting there, and I was not allowed to be around any of my relatives unless my parents were supervising the conversations. And I looked up, and my Aunt Jenny was talking, but she was wearing pants. And I said, Aunt Jenny, how can you love Jesus and wear pants? And my father shut down the conversation immediately, and I was removed from the room. And my aunt was heartbroken in that moment, but then also, Sharon's got those questions in her mind, right? Hopefully they'll continue. And they did not out loud, because you learn very quickly to not ask questions. And men are in that final authority. And so I think silence is something, and I hear people not having trust in self. It's something that's taught. And there's this, like people would say, joy. How do you have joy? Jesus, others, yourself was an acronym. And on the top of every page of my King James Bible that I had like 1/3 of it memorized by the time I left, I had the word others written on the top page of every single page. To think about yourself was sinful. It was wrong. And so we were taught also you're born a vile sinner, like worth less than dirt. And so all of these ideas are in my brain. So to ask a question was not only not allowed, but it was preposterous, right? Like to question anything was completely not okay. And yet questions are what helped me get free. And it took me questioning quietly, internally, without asking out loud. It took me having, once I got to the Colts College, conversations that were unsupervised with grandparents and asking questions about their faith, trying to convert them, but also asking them in a way where they could speak, right? So like questions are, I think, what allows us to start to deconstruct from conditioning. And all of us have conditioning of some level, whether it be a high demand religious cult or the society that we're in, and the baked racism and anti-fat bias and all of the different things that we have in our society. So we all have ways we can deconstruct. And one of the first things we have to do is start asking questions, but we have to be able to trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And that is a hard thing to do.
I do have a question for you. This is actually supposed to be a question for you, Michael. I'm sorry, but people talking a lot about questioning their faith and maybe what can happen after that. You're going in, you're obviously a little girl, you don't know better, you're just, being an honest little kid. As you get older though, you realize what you're in and how other people view things differently. At what point did you kind of shove the fear aside and think, I don't really care what happens after this, I have to go this way with my journey?
Yeah, well, to question meant to question God, which meant to put myself in eternal jeopardy, which meant an eternity of torment in hell forever and ever and ever and ever. And there was no other way of thinking. My sweet grandfather, who'd been a pastor for 60 years in Maine, was going to hell. There was no other Christianity I could step into. There was no other faith. It was IFB or hell. And so, I battled chronic suicidality from age 7 is the first time I remember and the first time I had an attempt. And it's something that I still will battle with from time to time. And when we talk about suicide, it's the biggest prevention. So don't be afraid of that word in this room. But because there was no way out for me, it was to end my life or to stay in this place that was honestly its own version of torment. And it, if I were to define hell, I'd define it the way you could find right outside of Chicago. And so it was awful, but for me, the first thing, I had so much fear, it was only suicide. And then the leader went to prison. And when that happened, you could say my shelf started to break. It's a term we hear in religious deconstruction communities a lot of like, when did your shelf break? And he was my God, right? Where he put a period, there was no way in hell I was putting a question mark. And so when he went to prison and he had just acknowledged to me that he saw that my father was an abusive person and he was going to do something about it right before he went to prison. And so then I was like, what do I do? But I was in this college that was unaccredited and it was the only thing I knew. So long story short, because we have a lot of people and wisdom to talk about, it took me seeing something, my God, the pastor, the leader, crumble and be a man, and I saw his humanity. But then it took years, and it took years of conversations with my grandparents, and my paternal side is not religious at all. And they were actually one of the safest people for me to ask questions about because I knew they wouldn't have that type of like religious judgment. And then ultimately, as a single female in that place, I got placed in Arizona to teach at a satellite. If you don't get married within the college, you get placed somewhere. So I was in Arizona and my suicidality went through the roof. And my uncle happened to be a district attorney who had seen everything go down with the pastor going to prison, and he asked me how I was. And we didn't talk about mental health. And so at that point, he said, would you go to therapy? And I said, therapists work for the devil, period, no. And he said, what if we find you a Christian counselor? And they found a church that happened in Scottsdale, Arizona. At that point, they no longer offer it. I think they were there for me, and that's selfish, but hey, I'm okay being selfish from time to time, all right? And they offered 6 weeks of free counseling there. And I found a small group of people who showed me a different version of God. And when I saw that maybe, just maybe, there was something that wouldn't send me to hell outside of the IFB, then I could take a step. And I gathered all of the courage I possibly could. And I took that step. And actually, July 4th was my 10 years of getting out.
Wow.
I mean,
I think everybody's in the same breath.
right.
I'll take one with you.
Seriously, you down there need to breathe for sure. I mean, I think but that really shows kind of to what you were saying earlier about the fact that, finding people who you vibe with, finding people that you can trust, finding people that you're surrounding yourself with that really are letting you know that it's okay to have other ways of thinking, have other beliefs.
Because I feel like what you just said actually makes me think about one of the recent podcast episodes where I was interviewing Davia Stevenson, and she is a licensed clinical therapist. But I remember one of the things that really stood out to me is I asked her, I said, what do people tell you is the biggest thing that is a loss for them when they actually have the courage to walk away from religion? And one of the thing that she said is the loss of community. And for me, I can relate and resonate so much because I know what writing this book cost me. So I know that when I talk to people from different walks of life that have maybe their story isn't identical, but so many of us have been afraid and we have stayed in high control religious systems that were harmful because we were afraid to lose community. And I think my biggest question for the people up here, it's a free for all really. Have you experienced any loss of community, and how did you deal with that when you took your step to break free of a high control religious system?
We lost my parents to some degree. Church always came first, so their holidays, Christmas, Easter was theirs. We had to reinvent them for ourselves. We lost my son's godmother, who rejected our turning away from the church. And I said, well, you can still be there for him. She goes, no, I can't. I'm like, oh, okay. So once you take God out of the equation, people just turn their backs on you. We were very ingrained in our church growing up. Ed's house was 3 blocks south of the church, and my house was 3 blocks north of the church. And so meeting there was literally the center of our world for decades. And then when we both looked at each other and said, I don't believe in it. I don't either. What? Where did this come from? Like, it was a weird symbiotic moment. And we said, well, now what? Because if we tell our friends, it's in the book too, where one woman that we were friends with, our boys were the same age, they were supposed to make their first communion. She was like, oh, Lori, when's Danny gonna go to church? And I'm like, Alice, we're atheists. And she bumped her glass down on the table and said, oh, I don't believe that about you. And I was like, what? Because to me, like, when you say God, and the title of the book kind of scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I don't know that I believe in a supernatural. I don't believe in a supernatural God, but I don't exclude anybody else in my world who does.
Yeah.
We all have our own framing that we put our worlds into, and I respect anybody else's, and I hope they respect mine.
Absolutely.
But when I say I don't believe in God, it doesn't mean I don't think that a God doesn't exist, because I see God in every human being.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes. And so you don't have to go to church, you don't have to pray, you don't have to read certain scriptures. You just have to be present, and you have to bear witness. And I think that's the most precious part about what it is. You insert yourself into somebody else's world. You say, I'm not going anywhere. I want to watch you, and I want to learn from you, and I want to grow with you. And so I think that's the remedy to that, which also establishes trust.
I love that, because what you're saying is be fully aware. And my definition of love is unbounded awareness. You're aware of everything and anything at all times. And that allows you to be present with anybody, because the God that's inside of you, you respect, and the God that's inside somebody else, you respect. And so because you're fully aware of where they're coming from, you allow them to be whoever they need to be at the moment. And you don't have to control that. And that's the thing that we all fight, is control. Because the fuel of religion is control. And control needs an enemy. In order for it to happen, it needs an enemy. And the first enemy religion teaches you to hate yourself. And so now you hate everybody else because you hate you. So you're projecting, and everything that you think about God is how you frame God to other people is how you think he thinks of you. And so we project that. If the God is my mother with a belt, guess how I'm going to treat everybody? Like my mother with the belt. And I'm going to judge everybody. I'm going to come with fear, shame, and judgment, because the God that I serve is fear, shame, and judgment. And so I'm not going to be fully aware and loved. So I'm not going to fully accept everybody. And I'm going to say, well, yeah, I love you and I can accept you, but I don't agree with you. Why do you have to say you don't have to agree? Why could you just go, I do agree? And this and that. And what happens to us in religion continues to shape our thinking about ourselves. And shape the motion of what we think about ourselves. So I feel comfortable in hating myself. So I feel comfortable in hating somebody else. And so now I'm walking so guarded, because I'm guarded of myself, I'm guarded of other people, and I can't be fully me because I don't accept me. So I don't know if the other person is going to accept me. And whatever you call divine, whatever you call God, something inside you is going, that's less than what I am. I'm made for more than this. I am more than this. And so you start inviting yourself to look at that. But in order for you to do that, then you have to defragment, deconstruct everything else that you built. And that's scary. And that feels alone. To answer the question, do you feel alone? Yes. But in that aloneness, the way I see God will bring you people in your life to go, we are in this together. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I know this. When I started going through this, I pastored for years, and I met Akir and Mike were pastoring. And then we got together and we're like, well, we hate the church. And I'm tired of standing and preaching to people every Sunday morning, trying to convince them that they're loved, and they just look at me like I'm crazy. So what are we doing? And so in the walking together, we had to know how to love each other, give room for one another, give grace. I said this to her earlier. Katie, I said, we do not know how to give ourselves grace. And grace to where we at. And I think in our relationship, what I learned with Mike and Akia and Dad and I, and walking the last 18 years, is we had to extend a lot of grace to one another. And we had to extend grace and say, hey, this is what I was reading. This is what I was thinking. And I had to extend grace when Akia was like, I think I'm an atheist. And like my brain is blowing up like, what? Hold on a second.
Did I say that?
At one point in our journey, yes.
Wow.
And so we were sitting in a restaurant and I was like, hold on. And she's like, I don't believe in the Bible anymore. And I'm like, that's all I quote is the Bible.
I don't, but different. But there's something that you're saying though.
Go ahead.
That's something to what you're saying. And I want to circle back to you, Lori, which is really interesting. Is when you were saying like, I don't believe in a supernatural God. And so for me, like I'm somewhere in between. And that's like the beauty of this room. It's like we are all coming with different viewpoints, and like when I think of the universe, when I think of, first of all, God is everything, and God is in me, and so I feel like divine, okay? Because I feel like, and I feel like that about everybody. I feel like we were all created to be divine in God's image, and so I don't look for external validation from some spiritual being outside of myself. But I say this, and I'm gonna tell a little story, Danny, based off of what you said.
What?
Something is really interesting. I addressed it a little bit in the book, but I tell it way better in person. So this religion is so hard on kids in particular. The psychological damage that it does to a child when they are 8 years old and they are asked the question, who wants to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior? First of all, the first thing is like, ooh, that means that I am in need of saving, which means that I can't do it myself. Which means that like I need something outside of me to get me certain results. So they're already thinking that. They're already thinking that they're not good enough because we are taught. I was in Christian school my entire life from the time I was a little bitty girl all the way up until I graduated, that I was my righteousness. So that means even my good doings, even the good that I had in me was as filthy rags. Less than dirt. That I was this horrible, imperfect wretch of a human being.
Less than 8.
Yes. Oh, like four years old, like pre-K. And so when you grow up hearing this kind of thing repeatedly, preached into your psyche, and then when you pray the sinner's prayer, oh my God, you are saying this to yourself over and over again. And what does neuroscience tell us now? That the things that we say over and over to ourselves becomes a part of our DNA. It shapes a neural pathway. And so we wonder why kids grow up with a lack of knowing who they are, with no self-worth, with feeling lower than, less than, missing the mark, right? Doing things that are not necessarily in their character. And so for me, that was the first thing I had to unlearn when I was divorcing religion. Yeah, I divorced it, which means I had to completely separate myself from the system that told me that I was less than and that I was lower than. And I had to really, and so what's interesting about that though, because I feel like Christianity is full of ironies. So they say, and I'm a writer and I love words. And so they say, see yourself the way God sees you.
Right. But I'm less than dirt.
But I'm less than dirt. So that's how God sees me? Well, you're the apple of his eye. Well, which one is it?
Fearfully and wonderfully.
Fearfully and wonderfully made. Which one? Like, what am I? And so, like, I'm sitting here like, I don't know what in the matrix is happening. I'm short circuiting, right? And Sharon looks like she has something to say, so I'm about to give her this microphone. But I just want to put that a bug in y'all's ear because she looked like she's ready to go, and I'm about to let her go.
I'm just like with you. I'm like, I feel like everything you're saying, I mean, it's fear and love are the same.
Yeah.
Right? When so much in high demand religions, we say, I love you, and love is condemnation. I love you, and love is physical violence towards a child. And I did that because I love you and it hurt me more than it hurt you. And that's love. So when you're talking about a small child, right? Like, and this is love. And God loved me so much. And God has so much love for me. But yet what he's going to do, and he's my father, and a father loves me. But yet when my father abuses me, that's love. And that's okay because he's trying to get me to submit and to obey. So love is so contorted, so distorted, so messed up. So then when you get out, you're talking about the price of what it is to get out, right? You grieve. And Lori, you talked about the grief of the loss of community. And we were taught, there's a verse in the New Testament that says, sin when it's not even a full verse, y'all. It's a portion of a verse, talk about context. Sin when it is finished bringeth forth death. So we were taught the moment that you leave, that is sin. That's the ultimate sin, right? And then that brings forth relational death. And of course it does, because you're going to lose your relationships with people when you leave. It brings financial death. And if you're a woman, your finances are controlled by men. And then you lose all of these things and you'll eventually be dead. And you'll have spiritual death, physical death. And so to rebuild yourself though, you have to learn, and we were talking about this before, Nicole, but like, what are my wants and likes? That's selfish and that's sinful. I'm allowed to have a want and a like. But if God created me fearfully and wonderfully, or if there is no God and I'm a being here and I have wants and likes, like how do you find those and build those? And I feel like that is loving myself.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Okay, I just got a note that I so obviously read. But anyways, so basically I want to let Nicole and Michael share just, because I see you guys have the microphones in your hands. I want you guys to give, your thoughts or whatever, and then we're going to move to the question and answer with the audience, because I know I see a burning in your eyes. So we're going to go. Who wants to go first? Nicole, Michael?
Does that have final thoughts? Is that what
No, just your thoughts on this topic.
Okay, well, I wanted to add that what I'm hearing is just there's so much about shame here. And I think for me, being a survivor of sexual abuse, that's been just like the thread that has just connected like all the unhealthy coping and the bad relationships and, the struggles in life, and to be able to really heal from my trauma was overcoming shame. But shame tells us that we are inherently bad, and that is also the thread with religious trauma and high control religion, is that this cycle of suffering and self-hatred, it just grows shame up in our lives and grows deep roots, and it takes so much to overcome that. And what I've understood, not only as a survivor but someone who works with survivors regularly, is that the antidote is self-compassion. And being able to look at even my younger self and say, little Nicole, like, it makes so much sense that you feel this way, or that you've believed this way for so long, or that you've just been walking out in this direction because this is what you were taught. Yeah. And to be able to extend a hand, I think, to that one that's hiding in shame. Shame makes you hide. It's hyper vigilant. It creates so much chaos in our lives, but to just extend that hand and say, come along, like, I get it, I understand, and it makes sense. There's so much that just, like, I think your shoulders drop, your jaw comes unclenched, like there's an understanding there of like, okay, I can actually be me. I can learn who I am. I can be I can be separate from these people who've controlled me all of my life, and I can almost reinvent myself. And I think I just wanted to bring that up as like shame and self-compassion, I think, are two ends of the spectrum. And when we're learning how to divorce religion and find God, we're on that journey from one to the other.
Yeah, that's good. That's super good.
Wow. The institution thrives off self-denial, but you can't deny what you haven't discovered. So that makes sense. The institution has really given me PTSD when it comes to that word community. For those who know me, I want to vomit when I hear that word community. And community. Oh boy. The worst thing that was ever told to me in the institution is that I was living.
Come on.
That's really.
And the reality is that they did love me. It was transactional. You know, that's the elephant in the room when it comes to the institution. By the way, the institution is what we call the American church. I don't call it the church, I call it the institution. And for years, people would tell me that and not follow up. And I think the institution produces a mindset and a persona that does not have any ability to relate to people. I just want to talk about the Yankees. We talk about the Yankees, not theology, not conversion, not. I want to talk about just whatever, the Lakers. It's not talking about the Browns. You know, institutional people cannot. Institutional people have a hard time, and I love them as a people, but they have a hard time relating to people.
Yeah.
And I think institutional religion hangs its hat on not even your conversion, but you complying. Just compliance, just comply. So I think there, not to be too deep in this, but I think there is a frequency and an energy and a vibration that's a secondary consequence from awakening, self-awakening, that leads you to the people that you need to be connected to in life. The problem with that is that we become preference-driven. And we're not spirit-driven, we're preference-driven. And I think we can all say that we've gone through that journey and that is great. And just really go out and love that's in our hearts, which is really the spirit. It's love, it's the spirit of love, at the end of the day. And learning how to just connect with people and love people. And I think that will lead you wherever it needs to lead you. But the institutional way of thinking was something that I was incubated in from a child, and I had to go on my own journey to discover that that was a fallacy. Now, it's not without tears, it's not without heartache. I'm like, oh my goodness, something I've known my whole life is actually wrong. And I think it's okay to know, I've always said this for years, you have to know what you know to know the unknown.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. That's almost as difficult as climbing Everest. And I've been on this journey personally, and I applaud Kia and everybody on this panel of just taking the journey of discovering who they are outside of that dogmatic, religious, inerrant theological perspective. And not the people, but the perspective and the concepts. And so I applaud you, Kia, for being one of our leading soldiers in journey.
Thank you so much. You want to take the questions?
Yes, so anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? You just raise your hand and I'll work my way over.
Cornell.
Thank you, thank you.
We ain't
I
talking.
feel like I'm a divorcee from religion graduate. But
That's good.
no, I'm still on the journey for sure. But I know you guys talked about just a sense of death. It feels like when you're separating from religion. I guess as you've been navigating through that, what has been the sense of hope for you to continue that journey versus going back to where you came from?
Is there anybody in particular you want to take that?
Anybody?
He said, leave us.
You know what, Cornell? My hope that has kept me going are my two children that are sitting in this room. They are truly my reasons why I've started on this path. To be honest with you, I mean, I knew it was like some weird stuff. Like I always questioned it when I was growing up, and I always had questions about it. But when I had children and started seeing some of the things that I was taught, and I was kind of just logically just paying it forward, I immediately went to therapy. And that started the journey. So my two children give me hope.
That's so well.
I want to say this on the hope side. That's a great question, Cornell. Thank you for that. I think it's being comfortable with being yourself and hopefully grabbing a whole group of people that are comfortable with you being you and whatever part of the journey you're in. So much, Nicole mentioned shame, so much shame, fear, and judgment comes from control and religion. And if we exchange that for love, grace, and compassion, then we create ecosystems of just people to just allow yourself to be, and there's no judgment. There's no one tallying in religion, whether you tally, have you read your Bible, have you done this, and they're keeping the score, right? Being able to just be yourself and not be around people that you feel like keeping score for you. It's like, I'm not keeping score for myself, so don't keep score for me. Let me be. I think that's my hope, to find a world where everybody could just accept themselves for wherever they're at in their journey and be cool with it.
I was just gonna add, I said this on your podcast because you asked a similar question to me, and my answer was similar to you. The next generation, like the young people today, I feel like have already been willing to just step into who they are so much more than our generation was able to.
That's right.
And that gives me hope.
Yeah.
I love seeing them not be imprisoned by, what older people have shown them and taught them, the trauma they've walked through. Like, just the willingness to show up and be me and authentically me. That's just so beautiful to me and very inspiring to me.
I think what gives me hope is the stories you've heard today. And that is testimony time. Just kidding. Sorry, y'all. Trigger. That is talking about Jesus and getting a glitch. All right. No, but that is a testament, though, for real, to the fact that we can grow, we can evolve. And my grandpa, who's not religious, told me when I was a kid and all growing up, we move from truth to truth to truth. And I used to be like, yeah, grandpa. But as I've evolved and grown, I'm like, hey, we really do move from truth to truth to truth. And you had a quote about what we don't know, right? And then until we are able to know. And I think hearing these stories right here gives me hope that we together as a community can still grow. That's so good. So good. Yeah.
Committed.
I just wanted to make a really good point, and I guess, as I'm saying, that's a good point. No, I just want to make the point that honestly, I do think we do need to take back and or own some of those words that have been potentially triggering. And I see it even on the other side of, or the political side of things. Like, you can be a patriot from a true sense of the definition and of the word, and not have that be one particular side of politics. It does not have to be entrenched in the MAGA kind of world. You can be a patriot and not be that. And you can have community without it being clouded by, and you can have testimony. Because it truly is. Even in the court of law, it is testimony.
100%, yeah.
And I think the more that we use those old words, but redefine and re-speak them with new intentions and or more appropriate definitions, that is also part of healing.
Go ahead.
In my classroom, I use the words fellowship all the time.
Wow. Fellowship.
We're gonna have fellowship.
Yeah.
Come after school, we're gonna have snacks and fellowship. We're going to break bread.
Yeah.
And my Christian kids go, ooh, what's she talking about? Because I don't think she was, and then my atheist kids are going, what the hell? But it's like the idea of having communion is just getting people together to eat together and to have fellowship. And so it is I think you're right, reclaiming those words and secularizing them and making them normal.
What's your name?
Julie.
Julie?
Yeah.
Julie, I love what you're saying. I think there's something that you said so powerful. You said the word be. I think that's how you reclaim it. Just be what it is. I think a lot of times we like titles, we like names, and those can be used as control mechanisms. I think we can say community, whatever you want to call it, but just be community, right? Actually live it, actually be it, actually embody it. He's gonna throw up every time I say community. So please get a bucket. But what you're saying is right. You gotta just be it. And I think a lot of times the essence of being, right? I don't have to call it nothing. If you can tell me love all day long, but I know love if I feel it. I know love if I'm accepted. I know love. We do this in church all the time. You said it, Akia. I love you, brother. You said it. I love you. No. You don't have to tell me anything. Be love. I always tell folks, don't tell me Jesus loves me. Be Jesus and love me. Those are two different things. If you are just that and be that, I'm good. But if you're constantly telling me I'm this, no, just be it. Embody it. Become it. And I'm gonna feel it. And I'm gonna know that you are it.
And Arden has a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so this is for you, Mom and Dad. This kind of been on my mind, like how, when you were battling with your belief, like, oh, I hate God, I hate religion, how did you deal with that? Being in a relationship with her, because you had
To my daughter.
because I know you have very you've grown up having very like traditional views, and you haven't like fully broke out of that yet. And so I want to know how it's been in that relationship with Mom, with her being so open and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, that's a great question, honey. Thank you for the question. To those people, thank you. She's drawing up. Okay, back to the question. Honestly, I didn't think negatively about it, honestly. I was on my own journey at the same time. Never trying to conform her or change her. She's been married to somebody who's been, 10 different Michaels over the last 20 years. She's been 10 different Lakias. We evolved.
Probably more.
Okay, maybe 20.
Or most of one right now.
I'm trying to be happy. So, yes. So, think of it this way. If you met me for the first time tonight, and I showed you my baby pictures within a minute of us meeting each other, you would say, Mike's a nice guy, but there's a little bit of Arrested Development there. And then my baby, look at my diapers. And you're like, you mean to tell me that the summation of your life is your baby pictures?
Yeah.
Has there anything that has happened since you were 1 year old? And I think the religious mindset has you stuck, right, compared to being a free spirit and a wild heart, which includes evolution. So I understood that from a macro standpoint, Artie, that she was going through an evolution. It wasn't my job to create a zoo, but continue to let her be in the safari. Honestly, I've never liked the zoo, for those who know me.
Yep.
Because we go to the zoo and we're entertained by caged animals. We're looking back at us like, I'm not meant to be here. I think all of us are meant to be the free spirit wild heart. And what institutional religion does is it cages you.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, I have convictions that were being questioned by Mom. But at the same time, I'm questioning the same convictions along the way. And not putting her in a cage and saying, you see, because one of the things about what we discovered about institutional religion is that it's misogynistic, first of all. So it was not my role to say, hey, conform and comply to this household and this. No, she's on her journey. Right? I'm on my journey. And I think, there was a level of like, okay, I don't understand. And I didn't understand all the time. I don't think we're meant to understand all the time. But allow each other to evolve and grow. And she can hopefully testify to that.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll add, I think that I'll say this for every single person in here, picking the right partner is key. And I always say, like, you know, we are very different individuals. I am super airy and he is like my foundation. And so sometimes his stability and him just being like that solid foundation, I want him to just fly free with me. But I understand that he needs it to come across in a different way. So like I am the type where I'm like, Michael, it doesn't have to make sense right now. Like, let's just fly. Let's just wonder. Like, and he's just like, no, not today, because I need to, you know. And so, and there would be a lot of conversations that we would have, and I'm like, I just don't want to talk to you about this. And I would just stump away or whatever. He can attest to it. Like, it's the truth. But there is a bracelet that your father bought me several years ago. And he has definitely like spent a lot of money on jewelry in the past years. But this particular piece of jewelry was a jewelry that he bought from a little store in Cabo, Mexico. So it does not compare to the other pieces that I have. But it says, whatever, forever. And that speaks volumes to me every day. So I may not wear it every day. It's in my jewelry drawer and I look at it. And so I knew that I was good. And so he never ever, you know, tried to keep me, like he said, in a cage or in a zoo. He knew who he was marrying. He knew. And I knew who I was marrying. And we did that intentionally. And we allow each other the space to be ourselves, even if we don't understand it, even if we don't agree. Hell, there are things we still don't agree on today. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. And because I realized that, like, we don't have to agree on everything to still be good partners. Do we still have the same foundation? Like, do the same things still matter to us? And at the end of the day, I'm rolling with him.
Can I add? So in the institution, church, in the institution, there's a mindset that conformity is unity. That's not true. I don't have to perform to you to be you in your unity. It's not meant to be that way. We're meant to think differently.
Yeah.
But can my love for you and my relatability to you transcend things that we don't agree on? It can. So I don't want to be with someone who thinks the way I do all the time. It'd be boring, right? Boring.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't stretch me. She has stretched me and I'm trying to stretch her. So.
We talked about the grief of leaving community and all these different things, and people have asked what gives hope, right? This interaction right here, Arden standing up and asking that question
Beautiful.
to her parents who came from high demand religions, that is not a question little Akia, or I don't know if your story, but I've heard a lot of Akias, would have probably ever felt empowered. I have full body goosebumps right now to be able to stand and say and ask her parents in private, much less in a room filled with people. So that right there
Yes.
shows your active deconstruction, evolution, and what your children are able to do sitting in this room. That gives me hope. I mean, I think my favorite.
Great question, Ari.
Yeah, I love you.
How many more minutes? I love you too. How many more minutes do we have? Or one more question?
Just a couple of
Got 3 questions.
Mrs. and Mrs. Red, you're very important people in my life. We had a conversation one time after an OSU football game about faith. I don't want to say religion. For me, I'm not religious. I'm faithful. I feel like it's hard to go to a church when it is transactional. When they're asking for me to tithe, when they're asking me to devote myself in ways that I'm not comfortable or will be comfortable. As a young man and looking in the future, looking back on your parenting, how would you introduce that faithfulness in your children without that institution? I think it's important for me to understand that because when you were saying about your past, and then when we had a conversation in the car about your semi-colon, I struggled with that too. And I think that's what made me pause and look back. I'm like, is this religion, is this faithfulness really for me? Because we've been taught that this church is better than this church, right? Yeah. But it's all the same faith. It's just a different way of preaching it, you know? So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the institution is steeped in cognitive dissonance. Saying what they believe, but behaving completely opposite of what they believe, if that makes sense. Danny alluded to it earlier about being. I've learned in life that people don't tell lies, they live lies. So authenticity can be felt. It's not about what you say, it's about what we see. And I think that's something that me and Akia have just really focused on, of like just being, more so than here's the Beatitudes of Matthew, and the book of John says, and Genesis says this, and that's malarkey that just won't resonate. It's really being there with them, connecting with them, and there's just something different about mom and dad, and there's something different about their heart. What are you into? I had a CEO in the city. He's a good friend of mine. I won't be long with. I want Kia to answer this question too. We're playing golf, and it's a true story. And on the golf course with him, he said, "Mike, what's there's something different about you? What are you into?" I said, "We're not here to talk about that. We're here for me to beat you in golf and beat you down." And I said it in a warm, funny way. We're laughing and we're having a good time. We play again. "Mike, I gotta know what you're into. Are you into a nonprofit? Are you religious?" I said, "No, we're not here to talk about that." I said, "In fact, you don't want to know anything." And I said in a warm way, funny way, we're laughing on the course. And then I get a call around 7 o'clock at night. Him and his wife were going through something real serious. And he says to me, "Mike, I need to know what you're into." I said, "Well, now you're ready." And I don't go around proselyting what I believe. I believe in, really honestly, just loving people. And that again, for me, and I know for all of us in here, the one spirit is the spirit of love. And I think that is what we can hang our hat on more than anything. And that's a supernatural divine thing.
No, I think that's really, really powerful. Actually, like I was gonna say, I actually admire that about him, and I respect that about him. It's like, that is a difference that he and I share is, or that we are different, is that like Michael doesn't go around like proclaiming like what he doesn't believe or what he believes in or whatever. And me, I am like, books. Like, this is what I believe. And I'm gonna stand up for justice. I mean, I'm just, and so we balance each other in that way. So, segue into what I'm about to say to you.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it real authentic with like my best answer for you. I've made some horrible mistakes with my kids. I have. More so than probably him. I have made some mistakes with my kids. I was raised that corporal punishment was the way that like spare the rod, spoil the child. I have, I don't want you listening to that music to get that in your spirit. They are 8. What are you talking about? I just like the beat, Mom. Putting them in evangelical Christian school when part of my heart did not align, most of my heart, because of my fear that if they went to public school, that they would be like contaminated by some COVID monster, but not really COVID, right? Like more of like a spiritual transference. I believed the stuff when I was younger in my faith and not deconstruction about, oh my God, like I don't want my kids reading books about different family values. Because that's what I was taught. I have not always been an ally. I have not always been in support of the LGBTQ community. I have not. I made some mistakes with my kids. You know what made it different for them? Is because when I went through my deconstruction, I went back and apologized for those mistakes. That's what made it different for them. When Arden talks about, man, I used to be really scared of getting a spanking. You know what, Arden, I'm really sorry about that. I apologized and I made it right. And one of the things about making something right and apologizing is really making a commitment to never repeating. And so when I saw the anxiety on my daughter's face when I was going to go and spank her, I put the belt down. I said, I can't do this no more. This is wrong. So I'm just saying to you that you're going to make mistakes as a young parent. Even you doing all the right things and asking the right questions, you're going to make some, it may not be religious stuff, but you're going to make some mistakes. But being willing to go back and correct those mistakes, not just apologize, but actually live the apology. That's what's going to make the difference.
First off, I would like to thank the Red family for being vulnerable and allowing us to witness your family, couples, and parenting therapy. I would also
Selection plate is at the back.
I would also like to thank Michael for allowing every partner in this room to be like, man, that's a good bracelet. So step up, everybody, boys. This is my cousin, so he doesn't have to step up. Akia, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's with the teddy bear?
Oh, that's a good question, and that is an awesome question to end on. Part of, not part of, the entire journey of divorcing religion and writing the book. It took 2 years to write because the first iteration of it was still little Akia writing the pages. And so when I went back to look at the manuscript, I was like, nah, I can't release this. This is not ready. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there was some other stuff going on too, right? But like the main thing was the little version of me who had not healed yet, who was not brave enough to see my shadow, who did believe that there were bad parts that she should be ashamed of, wasn't healed yet. And so this teddy bear symbolizes my inner child. I have it tattooed on my arm that, I don't know if he's here yet, but he's a fabulous tattoo artist and he will be happy to have your business. But it is probably one of the most beautiful pieces that I have, the most meaningful pieces of the teddy bear. And it actually looks very identical to this one. And I can say to you with certainty that the version that you all are going to get is the healed inner child. And it is the version that the adult Akia came alongside the little me and said, thank you. So that's what it means. And with that,